straight from Boston, it's Founder Thought, the show that has everything from advice, ideas, and inspiration from founders and business owners that made it all happen.
On this episode, we speak with Tarek Alaruri, co-founder and COO of Fairmarkit, an intelligent sourcing platform that helps improve processes for procurement organizations. Tarek shares his thoughts on motivation, leadership, and self-development.
All right, so welcome to Founder Thought. Today we're here with Tarek from Fairmarkit. So why don't you quickly just introduce yourself?
Yeah, so my name's Tarek, about to be 32 years old. I grew up in Michigan, went to Indiana where I wrestled. I was a chemistry major, and we started a software company in 2017 that helps procurement organizations operate their businesses more efficiently and better.
Amazing. So tell us a little bit about how you came up with the idea. Like where did it all start?
Yeah, it's a wild story. So I was a chemistry major, thought I would be either, I have a Middle Eastern father, so I thought I would be a doctor for a little bit there, which I'm glad I didn't pursue. I thought I was going to be a chemist, realized that, that was not the path that I wanted to go down. And so I got into sales. I worked for a logistics and trucking company called TQL, Total Quality Logistics, based out of Cincinnati. It was my first job out of college. I went and worked there in Chicago. Then I opened an office for the company down in Atlanta. We started scaling the business, the office in Atlanta quickly. I think we hired like 100, 200 employees in less than a year. It was crazy.
Wow.
And the attractiveness of seeing a company grow, but more importantly, seeing, people that are fresh out of college be able to achieve things, whether it's, buy a new car, buy a house. More importantly, being able to meet their personal goals as well, professionally and personally, right? And that was a really cool feeling to see. And myself, I started to notice in the space in trucking and logistics, you're calling anyone off the world for major corporations to handle a shipment that either goes to a manufacturing plant, it goes to somebody's table. It's crazy. Mm-hmm. And the way it's operated in the world is, you're faxing documents, you're cold calling people off of, something that looks like eBay from 97. And it's just a really challenging space. And what I found was that I'd have customers that would have distribution hubs, and they might have a director in each one, and they're paying wildly different prices for the same, service. Mm-hmm. And I met my co-founder at a company called Turbonomics. So I wanted to go work in technology. Because you see an archaic process, you see companies not optimizing things, and you see it being really messy, missing appointments, etc., shutting down supply lines. And I met my co-founder Kevin at a company called Turbonomic. It was a Bain-backed company. They recently got bought by IBM, but it was an application software. And we saw the same problem. And Kevin's background was he worked at EMC before. He was in sales, and then we met on the sales team at Turbonomic. And it was wild how our customers would just pay different prices for the same thing based on different times of year or different things. And that's really where we found the problem. And, how do we tackle it? And so we started actually talking to customers, so CIOs, CFOs, et cetera. And, when we were talking to them more and more times, it wasn't necessarily, I don't know what a good price is. Everybody knows they're not getting the best price. Yep. It was that these companies, especially at big scale, so when you think like Amazon, BP, British Telecom, they just don't have the operational bandwidth to get the good price. And so that's where we really started digging in, and we met our third co-founder, Victor, who actually helped us build the platform. And our first customer was the Mass Bay Transit Authority, because they found that 85% of their team's time was trying to optimize price under $50,000 and getting multiple quotes. And that's where we built Fairmarkit.
Amazing.
So let me ask you, Tarek, when you met your co-founder and Kevin and Victor, now this is actually what I'm interested in. How guys can figure out you guys can work together? Because I see a lot of people try to work together, because it's different style, different leadership. How you figure out guys you can do something together?
Well, it's give and take, and I think sometimes the number one thing that kills companies statistically is co-founders disagreeing about anything.
Sure.
Mm-hmm.
And when you're trying to solve a problem for a customer, and I think that's really what we try to embody at Fairmarkit is be team customer. You're trying to tackle a problem, you're trying to change the space. I think the biggest thing that gets into it is ego and a lack of self-awareness. And sometimes I'm not the most pleasant person to work with. Sometimes I can be an asshole. Sometimes I can wake up on the wrong side of the bed. And so having that relationship and dynamic with your co-founders and realizing the best intention out of them is really something that I think you have to do. because more times than not, you're wrong. And making sure that you're able to check your ego and try to self-improve all the time to how you can be a better coworker, how you can be better at your job, how you can be a better manager, how you can communicate more effectively. And I struggle sometimes with just communication. It's not like a forte. And so, being able to understand that, I think, improves the dynamic. So when you have people or co-founders that are willing to do that, you can come from all different walks of life. But if you're willing to work together as a team to not only make yourself better, but the company better, I think that's where companies are really successful and founder relationships are successful.
Let me ask you, because Victor, I think your background in sales. I know chemistry, but I looked a few video views. You talk a lot about sales, and I think Kevin is sales. Victor's background different. Yes, it's engineering.
Yes,
or
it's technical. So Victor moved over in 2012 from Belarus, and he's probably one of the smartest people I've ever met in my life. And one of the things you have to do when you start a company and anything is always be willing to learn. And for me, that's the most, awesome part about what I do. It's never did I think I would be reading papers on natural language processing or technology and how to build engineering teams at scale. Sure. And just I don't think Victor ever thought he'd have to learn how to, sell enterprise software. Yeah. And so, obviously Victor's core is software. Sure. My background sales. So I think there's learnings. I'm definitely not technically as proficient as, a high level Python engineer. But at least you get somewhat of an understanding, not only from your coworkers and then trying to learn from the outside.
Okay. And so this is actually, so we're going to talk a lot about leadership and what inspire you, because you talk about sometimes you don't wake up in the good sides of bed. So this is a challenge, because I feel this is with co-founder, business owner, not every day it's a best day. So how every day, because especially when you have a lot of people work for you, or you have also partnership, how you every day trying to motivate yourself or inspire yourself?
Yeah. So I think there's a couple different things to unpack there. Number one, I think starting a business, you have to realize that there's no difference between a Jeff Bezos and you. And once you can get over that mental hurdle to think, why can't you do something? You look at other people in other spaces, this is a cheesy one, but Colonel Sanders, I think he built the recipe. I think it's 79 spices, something like that. Built the recipe when he was in his 60s or 70s, and he got rejected forever. And so there's no difference between the Colonel and me. It just took him longer. And so, you just have to continually improve. So I think it comes intrinsically to realize that, anyone can achieve anything in this world. You just have to work for it. And I think you see that in other spaces, whether it's biotech, whether it's in garbage collection, you name it. Some of these business founders don't have traditional backgrounds. They just saw a problem and they want to solve it. So I think there's that aspect. When you talk about motivation, what motivates you, I think really I get the motivation from my company and my team. And that is what wakes me up every morning, ready to go.
Elaborate on that. What does that mean exactly?
It's so awesome. So we have this gentleman who works with us. His name's David Santiago. Mm-hmm. And so we started the company in Boston. Boston is a dynamic spot for universities. I think there's 50, 60 universities. Mm-hmm. And so we leveraged a lot of interns when we first got going. We worked in above a bar called the Corner Pub. There's bars on the window. Awesome office space if anyone ever needs it. Big shout out. And then we went down to Chinatown and we started using interns to help cold call and get us into these large enterprises. We'd write scripts and, kids would leave class and they would come, do this. And one of our interns, his name was David Santiago. He came in, he was going to BU. He sold tires before. He was super interested, wanted to get into sales. And he started as an intern. Fast forward, he graduated a year early to lead the intern team, ended up going to a full-time role. We raised some money, became, full-time BDR role. And by the time he was 24, he was managing a team, I think, of 20 to 15 people.
Wow.
And so a story like that is what gets me out of bed and keeps me motivated to see people able to achieve things together. Mm-hmm. And you realize, you start a company, at first it's because you're trying to tackle a problem, solve customers, but everyone that we work with is, looking to get that home run for their career. Mm-hmm. And so it becomes something where it's you can't let your team down, but also these people, if you're able to hit the home run, they're making their lives better, their communities better, financially, even depending if we become, the next PayPal or when we become the next Amazon, that's an awesome feeling that they're able to impact their community and the people's lives around you. So it has to come, I think, that's what inspires me every day is, making sure that you don't let a person like David down.
Yeah, that's amazing. Amazing. So tell us a little bit about, this is probably a big question, but some of the things that you sort of ran into early on in the process. Like, what are some challenges that you overcame? And we really love to talk about like learnings and challenges. And everybody's got that one big thing that was like, holy crap, we had no idea this was coming down the pipeline. It happened and they came over it. So tell us a little bit about something that you've faced early on in the process that would be valuable to share with our listeners.
I mean, we've faced everything, right? Like you start a business, especially one that's growing as fast as ours, you're facing everything from hiring, mishiring. I mean, having a couple months left of runway, you face everything early on. And I think David Sachs he was from PayPal and then went to Yammer. He talks about it really well, the early days of PayPal, but like, they just try to de-risk one thing. And eventually, if you can de-risk enough things, you're able to be successful. To think about a specific challenge, I mean, it just depends on the year because these, last 5 years have been bananas. Going remote is a huge challenge, trying to get the team together, getting everybody, towards the same path and going from being in an office and then now hiring remote has been a huge challenge. Being intentional with, language, how people interact has been a huge challenge that have been really thoughtful for. And we have a wonderful leader of people named Greg Spalding who helps with that. Early on, it's, convincing people to join your company. Hey, I'm getting paid a lot of money. I'm one of the top people at my, the company I work for. Why would I go join a startup where I'm going to get like 1/5 of the salary? That's challenging. So it just depends. I mean, we've had customers that we sell to the enterprise, so we sell to big businesses. And sometimes those customers are so demanding and so challenging that, one day the world's falling, they're not going to sign up or renew the contract. And, 2 months later, they're expanding for 3 times the size. So, I mean, you just got to be ready to roll with the punches and be optimistic. And my co-founder, Kevin, is probably one of the best people I've ever met in my life. And he's super positive. And so like when you're around infectious energy like that, you can't, not wake out of bed and be like, hey, it'll get better. So
that's amazing. Yeah, you definitely need that. I mean, that's one thing that I think everybody sort of struggles with, especially when, the shit's hitting the fan. You've got to have that positive energy and really just think of things in the light of, okay, this is definitely going to turn around. Things are going to get better for sure.
Yeah, and I think the other thing is you have to realize how fortunate we are.
Yeah.
Right. We're in America. Life's great. Like worst thing that happens is the company shuts down and, you'll be okay. You've learned a lot of things in the process, but like compared to other people in other countries in the world, like,
of course,
our place in life is so much better than, people in Africa, et cetera. And so, I think keeping that in perspective of like, you're a small fish in a very big pond and, your bad day is not as bad as other people around you is huge.
Yeah, absolutely.
So this is a big discussion talking about being in America or not, because actually I'm a huge fan of where we at, because obviously I'm coming from different place, so people didn't understand the challenges, what happened, and a lot of people didn't tell you, this is kind of, anyway, this big different conversation. But what make a good leader, Tarek?
What makes a great leader?
Yes.
So I think there's a couple things in the best leaders in the world that you see. One, I think my opinion is you have to have the common interests in mind of the people you work with. You have to be able to let people run and build. And that's one of the biggest things I've noticed with leaders is, the really top-notch leaders we have in our organization or even organizations we learn from, it might be friends of mine, is you bring people in and people want to build. People want to, almost like starting a company, they want to start or build a specific unit or organization from the ground up in the what you're doing. And it's, leaders that are more of the directing of saying, hey, you need to do X, Y, and Z, instead of letting people build X, Y, and Z and then ask your opinion. I think, I think that's the biggest difference I see between like an A and an A+.
Great. So tell us a little bit about your company culture and why it is the way that it is.
Yeah, I think company culture, the word, is the most overused expression in the world.
Do you have a different expression for
culture,
it?
It's like,
different way to describe it?
Yeah, it's just so squishy,
Yeah.
right? Like everybody's like, "Oh, tell me about your company culture." It's so hard unless you're actually in the company and you work with people. Because like
Hmm.
you distill a company, companies can have micro cultures within their own organization, whether it's like engineering, sales, product, etc. And then especially when you get to the size of a
Hmm.
company like Microsoft, like there's
Hmm.
thousands of cultures and subcultures and teams. I really think, we try to be an organization that follows and believes our core values, which is, be an A plus player, be super positive, be team customer, and be fair. And then when you really like unpack each one of those, I think it defends. So like be fair, right? It means bringing data to drive the best decision and being able to stand up for it and not be the loudest voice in the room wins. Be team customer means always thinking about what makes our customers succeed in their jobs and look great for bringing Fairmarkit
Hmm.
in. And being an A plus player, right? It's like busting your butt, but understanding when you need to take a break.
Hmm.
Being able to learn, being able to work with people, not be an asshole. And so I think like all those things go into a culture, and it's not really like a culture. Once you get to a company our stage, like 150 people, it's not my culture. It's not Kevin's culture. It's not Victor's culture anymore. It's the culture that our organization builds and the people that, put their blood, sweat, and tears in the fair market.
Hmm. Yeah, it kind of takes on like a culture of its own.
Yeah, for sure. But like, I think that's where organizations I see get in so much trouble. Is like, I don't want to work at a place where there's people telling me what the culture is like,
Hmm.
or they're telling me what to do. It's like, have fun at work. It's like, how do you have fun at work if you're telling me to have fun at
Hmm.
work?
Yeah.
So now, Tak, you said you guys are growing very fast. Obviously, you are growing very fast. Yes.
Yeah, I mean, our product solves a huge problem for customers. And so by growing fast, it's, we're supporting our customers. So the growth we have is because we're solving a problem for them and we need to support them.
So this is my question. Why you think, guys, you have all this success? Why? Like, I think it definitely has something to do with the software, with the idea behind. But why?
Well, we're solving a $9 trillion problem, right? Business to businesses, the way they buy today is completely inefficient. And the systems out there, SAP, Oracle, Coupa, they don't solve the problem because they're architected to use more
Hmm.
people in a problem that doesn't need people with technology. And so fundamentally, you have a flaw that companies need to save money with less people, and nothing solves that gap except our company. And so being able to fill that gap for a CFO is a huge problem at scale.
Okay. And
Hmm.
where you see you coming going in the future?
Uh, Great question. I mean, we're going to be the de facto solution for all the way businesses buy. And so, we're thinking about things from first principles of like, we're matching up supply and demand with customers, registered preferred suppliers. And, we're making it more efficient internally, and we're helping, those end users within the organization get the things they want in, 80% faster time.
Hmm.
Okay.
So, I think we'll be a huge company if you're asking,
Hmm.
but the huge company is because customers need to solve this problem.
Okay. So for now, where you at now? If you look at 5 years before 2017, what's something you learn now? And you say, if I wish if I know this when I start this, the 2017.
Mm. One one thing that's been a really important learning is, I think, personally, I'm trying to do a better job of thinking on a 6 month time frame and horizon,
Sure.
and working on that
Hmm.
horizon. When you first start the business, you're very in the weeds of, hey, I just need to keep the lights on. But the sooner that you start to get to a little bit of scale, being able to start thinking 6 months out, because when you make a bad decision that you're too late on making that 6 month out decision, one area of the business can slow down so drastically that it holds the rest of the business down. And so, one thing I wish I learned was to, start that thinking earlier of, talent, bringing people on when you need to bring them on, instead of waiting for a problem to happen and then you have to go out and recruit that person. It takes 3 months and then you're already, with this problem for
Hmm.
5 months. So that muscle has been one of the most important things I think I've learned, but the only way you can learn it is by actually
Hmm.
doing it.
Okay, now I'm gonna jump for something you said a few minutes ago when you talk about, guys, you think you're gonna be huge, because for me huge does not mean huge by the revenue. It's what you mean a huge. A huge by revenue, huge by the culture you have, by the team, by the people, how many people you assist. What mean a huge for you?
Yeah, I think we're going to be the first purchasing solution ever that has, several $1 trillion running through the platform a year. And, fundamentally, we're going to be the same type of company that Amazon is for consumers that we will be for enterprises. Fast forward 10 years from now, people will say, hey, I work at a company like BP and I use Fairmarkit to buy. And it'll just be the de facto solution.
Oh, wow. Okay, now for any founder out there listening, and guys, you see all the success you have, what advice you will give?
I would say it's be super humble and realize that you're more times wrong than you are right.
Can you give a...
It's easier said in I say it's easier said in practice, but a lot of times I catch myself having ego and being like, oh, I'm so right about this point, and then you take a step back and you're like, oh, you see the other side and you're like, I might be wrong. And sometimes that's a harder muscle to realize, and the sooner that you can realize that, the better.
Yeah, because I find a lot like a founder, especially people in new success and what they have ego. Let's be honest, they have, most of the founders, they have ego. So how even working with you, your co-founder, how you come guys overcome over these challenges?
I think it comes with like self-awareness and also, keeping each other in check. I mean, I understand probably why certain, billionaires who are worth like $100 billion have egos. It's probably because nobody around them wants to tell them the truth. Like if I was wearing a really goofy shirt today, I would hope that you guys told me to like go change and then come back on, And so, being able to support yourself outside of just work with like friends, family, like I'm still really good friends with kids I went to high school with. And, we talk every day, but we also hold each other super accountable, where if, I was taking Instagram photos and, selfies, I think my friends would make fun of me. So, I think things like that help keep you in check in life.
And are you wearing the Michigan hat? Is this Michigan hat? No, it's not.
No, this is actually our logo. So it's the Fairmarkit Eagle.
Oh, it's the eagle.
Yeah, it's the
it looks like
Fairmarkit
an M
Eagle.
for me.
It looks like an M.
It looks M. I say, okay, so what Michigan? So what school you went for?
Yeah.
What school you went for? One more time.
I went to Indiana Bloomington.
Bloomington,
So the
okay.
Hoosiers.
I have another question too. In regards to
Just to give it a
go ahead.
No, I was gonna say, just to give it a plug, best university in the world. Go Hoosiers.
Yeah, so I had a question. Do you have a support system? Because I know, obviously, finding, being a founder of a company, a lot of long hours, especially early on in the process. Do you have anybody, maybe it's family, friends, that provide, that sort of mental support for you during the process?
Yeah, 100%. So my girlfriend, her name's Jen. She's an absolute rock in my life. My family, my mom, my dad, my friends from high school, my friends from college, we stay in touch. I have other friends that I've made professionally now that are founders of other companies. I have friends, the VCs, et cetera. I think having that support system is really, really helpful. It's tough though, because you get so ingrained with the business, and you have to remember to be thoughtful in your personal relationships. And I think trying to develop as a leader and trying to develop yourself and your skills with like an executive coach, et cetera, I think it makes you a lot better personally outside of work as well. And you become a better, better husband, better boyfriend, better lover. You're just a better person in general. And so I think that's been super helpful.
Yeah, actually, I've heard that a lot, that there's a lot of folks out there that are using coaches and other, personal support, folks that are assisting, consulting, etc.
Yeah, well, it blows my mind. Like you use coaches in sports. You use coaches, essentially a professor, teaching assistant as a coach in studying. Why don't you use a coach in business?
Yeah, absolutely.
And I think there's a lot more in that space that can be done to help people and help organizations, not only from an executive standpoint, founder standpoint, but also an employee standpoint. Employees choose to work at companies, and it's not, especially like the last 6 months to years, people can work anywhere they want, right? Low unemployment rate, and so you need to be able to advance the people that work with you the same rate that you advance. And I think, trying to be conscious of that as an organization, that it's not just all about you, is super helpful as well.
Amazing.
And Tarek, we're talking about assistant and be with someone. Do you have a mentor?
I don't know. I don't think so. I read a lot.
So
but
what
not
your favorite
like a
book?
traditional mentor-mentee relationship. It would depend on the time. I mean, I think Amped Up was a really good book by Frank Slootman recently about software businesses. That was an absolute hammer. I mean, right now I'm reading Competing Against Luck by Clayton Christian. I just finished Surrounded by Idiots. Tough title, but good book. So I don't know. I catch myself traveling a lot, visiting our customers. So I'm always on a plane trying to read at least. So I read a lot of boring nonfiction business books, better for worse.
And
Amazing.
what your favorite quote?
Quote, Mike Tyson's, everybody has a plan until you get punched in the face.
Oh, that's a good one.
This is a good one. And
Hands down best.
yeah,
of
it
all
is
time.
very fun quote. And what do you do for fun, Tarek? What do you do for fun? How we like, because I'm sure you work a
so
lot
I
of
have-
hours. So what do you do for fun? How you relax?
Yeah. Well, I live in New York City, so I don't really think it's possible to relax. So, going out, hanging out with friends, going to bars, restaurants. I have a dog, which has been really helpful personally. I love her. She's a princess. Her name's Elsie.
What kind of dog is it?
So taking her for walks in Central Park is pretty cool.
Oh, wow.
Burmese Mountain
Oh,
Dog.
cool.
Big one. Very nice.
Yeah, she's a little chunky girl, but she's great. She's great.
Amazing. So I think that's it.
I don't have any. Yeah, I think
That's all the questions. Is there anything else that you'd like to add? Any final thoughts or anything that you'd like to share with folks, whether that be a piece of advice or, just a thought about business?
No, I think one of the best things about, creating a business and the entrepreneurial culture here in the US is, the ability to pay it forward. And so when you ask the question about mentors, I mean, some of our angel investors, some of our early investors, like they still mentor me. And, other founders give me advice who are later stage. And, I'm always reachable. So, find me T. Alaruri at Twitter or on LinkedIn. More than happy to give advice if you ever have questions. But I think the biggest thing is that the community builds itself. So the more that, a founder reaches out to you and you can help them with a deck, you can help answer questions. It's everybody's out here for the same goal, which is to build a company or get something off the ground. So, the more people can help each other out, I think it's better and it keeps the ecosystem growing. So, my one ask is to other founders out there is just to pay it forward.
Amazing. Great. I think that's it.
I appreciate
Of
you guys
course.
having me
Yeah.
on.
Thank you so much for joining us today. Do you want to just plug your site and just tell people where they can contact you beyond the social?
Yeah, fairmarkit.com. Fairmarkit.com. Search Tailspin, search procurement optimization, procurement automation will come up.
Great.
Amazing.
Fair
Excellent.
Market.
All right. Thank you, Tarek.
Thank you, Tarek. Appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for listening to Founder Thought. You can find more episodes wherever you listen to podcasts or on the web at founderthought.com. Founder Thought is a production of Pepper Gang.